Welcome to the Stevia Show. It's the Stevia Show. Helping you expand on what you know. Throw in a meme of the week and a review of the screen. And to have a show that covers everything.
Hey, Team Stevia, and welcome to episode 86 of The Stevia Show.
A talk show podcast that covers pop culture, world news, local artistry, and everything in between.
Hey, you got it. My name is Steven.
And this is Lydia.
And we are so excited for this episode.
Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, so it's actually weird because we did the interview.
We've already done it.
And now we're here. So
now we're doing the intro.
The intro and the outro.
So we can pump you up before you hear the interview.
Yeah, and we are starstruck, tell you what.
It was amazing.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that more in the outro. So for today's episode, we're skipping the media review, we're skipping the meme of the week. So we will come back with those next week because this is, of course, a lot more important. So Lydia, who did we sit down and talk with today?
Steven, we got to talk with Kojo Asamoa-Caesar.
Yes, and he is the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's 1st congressional district. So we are looking so forward to his interview, even though we've already done it, but we're more importantly looking forward to you all to listen to it. So without any further ado, here is our interview with Kojo Asamoa-Caesar. Hey, Team Stevia, how's it going? And as promised, we have a very special guest with us today. Welcoming to the show, we have our congressional candidate for U.S. House District 1, Kojo Asamoa-Caesar. So how you doing today?
I am doing terrific. I'm excited to be spending my Saturday afternoon with y'all.
Cool.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're excited to have you.
Yes,
We are, absolutely. And just one more thing, could you just get closer to the mic? I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Don't be scared of the mic, Kojo.
No.
Don't be scared, Cody.
Yeah.
Okay,
perfect. Yeah, so just before we get started with the questions, why don't you tell a little our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Kojo Asamoa-Caesar. I'm a husband. Me and my wife have been married for 4 years. We celebrated our anniversary on June 4th, this past June.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm a new father. We have a newborn baby girl, Hadessa Eden. She just turned 13 weeks on Friday.
Brand new.
Yeah, so we're very excited. She's brought so much joy to us in this, these tumultuous times in our world. I'm also a son. My parents are immigrants from Ghana, so they came here to America, to Alexandria, Virginia, actually, right outside of Washington, D.C., in pursuit of the American dream. And, the sacrifices that they made has allowed me to, be where I'm at and have access to opportunity. And so, and I'm a resident of North Tulsa, and I am running for Congress to represent the 1st Congressional District of Oklahoma.
Awesome. Yeah. And it definitely sounds like, between the pandemic, between having a newborn child and running a campaign. So you for sure have your hands full. So,
yeah, you've been very busy.
Yeah. So again, we would like to thank you so much for including us into your schedule. So we can go ahead and get started. So first off, again, congratulations on your significant win. Significant for a lot of reasons. But the one that kind of stuck out to us most is, how does it feel to be the first Ghanaian American congressional nominee in history right here in Tulsa?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I'll tell you this, I wasn't quite expecting the response from Ghanaians and Ghanaian Americans, in the United States, and it's just been overwhelming, right? So a lot of media outlets, a lot of just regular folks reaching out, saying how proud they are, how inspired they are. So it really does stamp this notion that I am running for something bigger than myself, right? And I've always talked about how great leaders have to be fighting for a cause that's bigger than yourself, right? And so it feels good. It feels good. I'm always excited when people tell me that my journey makes them believe that they can do better and they can go far. And so I'm excited.
Yeah. It's truly amazing.
Absolutely. And again, I just think it's so great that of everywhere for that to happen, it's right here in Tulsa.
Oklahoma.
You probably wouldn't expect that, but it just shows how great our local community here is.
Exactly. No, and I hope that's what this election, from our primary win and also the general election in November, shows that Oklahomans actually are progressive. Oklahomans can make history, right?
Right.
And we can be proud of the people that we send to represent us.
Right. So so you're obviously not going to pull a Jim Inhofe and bring a snowball into Congress.
Right.
Yeah. That was
Yikes.
That was a really fun week for us. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I think one of the things that I hear on the campaign trail all the time is, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, people are really tired of our leaders embarrassing us on the national stage.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And they want to feel proud of the people that they elect to represent
Right.
them. you know?
Agreed.
Right. Yeah, because you always see the meme on Facebook, like days without a national embarrassment. It's more often than not zero.
Zero.
Yeah, so-
-1.
So thankfully we have people like you who are going to change that. So awesome.
And Kojo, we did want to touch on your education. So graduating from both Old Dominion University and the College of William and Mary, what inspired you early in your career to care so deeply about your community and neighbors?
Yeah, I'll start with this. When I was in high school, I had great teachers, all right? And I actually didn't have a lot of black teachers. I think I had one black teacher, right, coming through our education system. But I had great teachers who told me, Coach, you have great leadership potential, right? And I wasn't really able to explore that fully in high school. And so when I got to college, I was excited to explore that and find out if they were really telling the truth or they were just being nice, right?
Right.
And so when I got to college, I was very motivated to get involved and really got involved in the campus community. Me and my roommates were able to found a community service organization.
Oh, cool.
And when you found an organization, just so we can get involved and be active instead of just going to class and coming back to the room and playing video games.
Yeah.
All right. But once you start seeking to serve others, the first thing that you learn is how deficient you are, right, to really help other people, right? You start learning about the world and you're mentoring at-risk youth and you're wondering how come, 7th graders are reading on a 2nd grade level, right? Or why is this neighborhood, so poor and doesn't have any grocery stores and different things of that nature. And so you just start to learn about people's lives and you connect with them and you want to do more, right? And then because you realize you're, deficient to do more, you realize you have to grow and you have to learn and you have to read, all right? And so that's where it happened for me. And it really happened through kids and seeking to mentor kids and being a big brother and seeing myself in those kids, right? And realizing that, they're just like me and they deserve every opportunity just like I had. Right. And why don't they have those same opportunities? Right? And so kind of spent my life trying to answer that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point that you've hit on. We actually did a episode devoted to Black Lives Matter where we had people of that community on the show and they talked about just how even though, Jim Crow's long gone, we're still experiencing 2020, this systemic racism. And that's absolutely admirable that you are wanting to help those kids who, they just want the same chance that everybody else has.
Exactly.
And that's just kind of how I feel like America's advertised, but that's not oftentimes what it actually is.
Right.
So you did arrive to Tulsa via Teach for America.
Right.
So what were your first impressions of our city whenever you arrived here?
Yeah, I arrived, so I graduated law school and decided to become a kindergarten teacher. Right? So signed up for Teach for America, said I want to go to wherever the need is highest. And they sent me to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Right?
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
I had never stepped foot in Tulsa. My friends were like, why would you go to Tulsa?
Yeah,
like,
what is in Tulsa?
Are there even any black people in Tulsa? Right?
Yeah.
Oklahoma, it's like
Right.
tumbleweeds,
We all live in teepees. That's the other one that we hear a lot.
Right. So I really didn't have a lot of expectations, right? I was just coming and I was motivated to be doing the work. But I was pleasantly surprised when I got here, right? It wasn't too big, it wasn't too small, it just felt like the right size.
Right.
And you did get that, I know there's a debate about are we really in the South, but you had that Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
People were nice, people would speak when you walk past them. It's not like New York where people just,
Tunnel vision.
vision.
Nobody's saying hi to you or
Right.
smiling at all.
So I was pleasantly surprised and I was like, okay, I can see myself living here.
Cool. Yeah. And sure enough, you've stayed. That's awesome.
Yeah.
To continue on that, what have you grown to love about Tulsa and what helped you decide to want to represent our community here?
Yeah, one, just, okay, so the big shocker for me was I was placed in North Tulsa as a teacher, right? And coming to learn the history of Greenwood and Black Wall Street. One, I was very embarrassed because I went through our education system. I went to some of the best schools, and I did not learn about this history.
Didn't learn about it.
So I was like, how did I not know?
Yeah.
Isn't that
about
crazy?
This? That was crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And then come to find out, there were people who grew up here
That didn't know.
who did not know
There's
either.
a lot of people like that. I feel like it's just something that we as a state try to like sweep under the rug, but you can't do
Right.
it with something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but the thing was, and sometimes we focus on the tragedy and how tragic the story is, but I was really inspired, right, that in the time of Jim Crow, in the time of segregation and all the obstacles that, those folks had to deal with, they were still able to build the most prosperous African-American community, right, in the country. And I saw my kids as, these are the descendants, right, of that great legacy. And so I was just very motivated to work to, restore that legacy, right, and to empower kids and even their parents and residents of our community so that we can do this again. Also, I think, Tulsa is known as one of the most generous cities in the world, right? Because we have these philanthropic organizations that are committed to making sure Tulsa is the best city that it can be, right? And so if you really want to make an impact, the opportunity is here, and people love Tulsa and they want to see it happen. And so you can, as long as you want to work hard and work with others, you can actually see your impact, happening very quickly. And so those are some of the things that have kept me here and kept me
100%.
working.
Yeah, awesome. And it's just so cool, like seeing almost like the revitalization of Tulsa, and then especially in the Greenwood district, like we are seeing so much more like locally owned businesses by African Americans in that community. So we're trying to combat that gentrification, and I'm just that's what makes me proud to be from here.
Nice.
Yeah. So of course, with us being millennials, we oftentimes kind of complain that there aren't a lot of us representing us in Washington. So how, as a fellow millennial, how important is it to you that people our age have that voice?
Yeah, no, it's very important. Talking about, generational divides, I think the baby boomers have stayed in power for a very long time.
Too long.
And their Generation X is getting skipped over because of that, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
And millennials are coming up on their heels, and I think they say millennials are one of the most civically engaged, generations, and we actually care more about making a difference, right, and meaning than we do about just making money.
Right.
Right.
And I think that kind of ethos is needed in our, halls of power, in our, corporations, right? And so I'm glad that we are ascending because that's where our world is moving. It's not just about making money at the expense of everything else. Right? It's about building a more equitable world that works for everybody, right? And so I think we have to go for it and continue to make sure that we can build a better world than the one that was handed to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that. Kojo, your campaign slogan is Bridge the Divide. We think it's safe to say that this is the most divided the country has been in our lifetime, at least. What policies will you champion to bridge the divide?
Yeah, I think, it really starts even before you get to policy, right? It starts with an attitude, right? We're as divided as we are because we have a president who wakes up every day with the intention of dividing, right?
You're right.
He speaks about issues and policies, not because he really cares about the policies themselves, but he wants to use it as a wedge issue to divide us, right?
Right.
So when he talks about the wall, he doesn't really care about the wall, right?
Right.
But he's sending this, signal to his supporters that, if you're white and you feel aggrieved and, you feel like manufacturing jobs have left and, the economy is not working for you, well, guess what? It's the brown people's fault, right? And so we're going to scapegoat one group and pit one group against another group, right? For my own benefit. As an elected official. That's how Donald Trump operates, right? And so we need leaders who are going to come on the other side and intentionally try to build bridges instead of walls, right? And so the way that I operate is you have to listen. You have to be willing to listen. That's the first, rule of building bridges, right? And bringing people together, right? Because then you can actually respond in kind. You can respond to what you're hearing from people, right? You don't come in thinking, I'm the arbiter of truth and I know what's right for you, and this policy is what is going to be my way or the highway. All right? No, I'm going to come, I'm going to share my story, I'm going to share my values, I'm going to hear you out, hear your story, hear your values, and then we're going to try to find a common vision, right, and a shared vision for how we can move forward, right? And if we do that, then we can arrive at policies that work for all of us, right? And we may not get 100% of what we want, but we'll be able to move forward together. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right?
I love that.
And so, so I have my policy stances, but more important than that, I want to listen to Oklahomans. I want to listen to Tulsans. I want to listen to people from Washington County and Wagner County and Rogerson Creek. And then let's work together to arrive at a better Oklahoma for all our citizens.
Absolutely. And that's very well put too, especially with the wedge issues that you mentioned, because we're seeing that now with like the statues that are being torn down, and it's almost like he's quicker to protect those than he is to, like expand COVID testing and stuff like that, because it's a wedge issue and it only affects a certain amount of people.
Exactly.
So I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but do you think party politics and loyalty are important? And if so, why or why not?
You have to ask yourself, right? Why am I in public? Why am I running for office? Why am I in public service, right? Who am I really here to serve? Am I here to serve my party, right, over country? Right? Am I more loyal to whoever is the president, right, or the leader of my party? Or am I loyal to my constituents, right, and my country and the people who sent me here? Right? And it seems as if, especially Republicans in this season, have pledged their fealty to Donald Trump. He's like their supreme leader. Whatever he says goes. And folks that have been championing family values and all these other things are all of a sudden just acquiescing to the most divisive president, the most immoral president, a president that cheated on his wife, paying off porn stars, just making fun of disabled citizens. And so I think you have to be loyal to country.
Yes.
You have to be loyal to citizens of this country, to your constituents, right? The people who are regular everyday people who want better lives for themselves and their kids. And they're trusting you to be in that room advocating on their behalf, right?
100%.
And so that's what I bring to the table, and that's who I'm going to be loyal to the Constitution, to the country, and to the residents of the 1st District of Oklahoma.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of the 1st District, right now it is, of course, represented by Congressman Kevin Hern. So in terms of between you and him, what do you think are your biggest differences, like be it personally, like with ideology? Yeah. So why Kojo over Kevin, basically?
Yeah. Well, so one, I think the first thing for me is that I am dedicated to public service, right? I've committed myself. I'm a law school grad who chose to become a kindergarten teacher.
Right.
I'm the only one who's ever done that I know of.
Yeah.
And especially with those, like the 2 schools you went to, like those are no beer league schools. Like those are
those are legit. Those are the big dogs over there.
And so I want to serve, right? And I want to build a country that's expanding opportunity for more and more people. So I'm committed to public service and servant leadership. Whereas he seems to be committed to his own self-interest, right? He's a multimillionaire. He owns McDonald's franchises. He doesn't pay his employees a living wage. And yet he votes to cut food stamps for people who can't put food on the table. Right. We both, as politicians, talk about our American dream story, right? And our rise from the bottom, basically, to get to this point. And he seems to talk about it in a way of, I got help from government programs when I was growing up, and they really made our family dependent. And so I'm going to go to Congress and cut those programs. Right. That's like, getting to the door and then shutting the door behind you.
Right.
Whereas I know, like, we needed food stamps when I was growing up to
Right.
be able to survive, right? I wore Salvation Army clothes, right? I used Pell Grants to be able to pay for college. And I want those same opportunities to be available for kids who are coming up after me, right?
Right.
Kids who are in the same position that I'm in.
Yeah.
And so that's what I believe. He wants to divide and conquer, pit groups against each other, build walls. I want to bring people together. I want to expand opportunity for more and more people. And I don't think that if you succeed, I fail. I think if I succeed, you succeed. If one
Right.
person succeeds, we all succeed.
Right. It's like that proverb you mentioned earlier. Whenever we go together, we go far, and
Exactly.
that's absolutely true.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then also, so looking at your platform, I think it's pretty safe to say that your policies kind of tend to be more on the progressive side.
Yes.
So why do you think that we are seeing upsets like the election of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in 2018, where we have progressive or justice Democrats who are kind of dethroning the standard bearers of the past?
Yeah, I think people are looking for authenticity. All right, they're looking for people who have the, strong values and convictions, who are going to be, willing to fight for what they believe in. All right, rather than in the past having certain leaders who try to play both sides, and not upset anybody. We've realized that doesn't really get us anywhere. All right. And so yeah, I'm excited. I think for me, it's about how did you arrive at your values? How did you arrive at your policy stances, right? So when I talk to people, I'm not looking to just get into a Wikipedia debate.
Right.
Let me tell you about my story, and what policies helped me and what policies I think will help you and your family. So that even if you disagree with me, you understand how I arrived there.
Right.
And then you can also share how you arrived at your stances.
Right.
And then we're not going to agree 100%. You don't agree 100% with your mom.
No, of course.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So
Right.
you're not going to agree 100% with an elected official.
Right.
But we can move forward together regardless.
Right.
Yeah, and it's all about like building those coalitions, because whenever we have like AOC, or like even like on a presidential level, like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie
Right.
Sanders, like they are really like coalescing like the working class, and what you're saying, like trying to help out their communities instead of trying to help out themselves. So that's a really good point.
Exactly.
Congresswoman Horn, Congresswoman Horn is the only Democrat to represent Oklahoma. It was an extremely close election as well. How important is voter turnout, especially with younger adults?
Oh man, it is so important, right? I mean, we all know that older voters turn out more than younger voters, right? It's interesting because, you see Bernie Sanders in his election, and he has these big rallies, and a lot of young people turn out, and they're screaming and yelling.
Right.
But then when it comes to election day, right, we're nowhere to be found.
Yeah, where are they at?
Yeah.
Right. So that's disappointing. But so a voteless people is a powerless people. So
Right.
we're giving away our power, right? And we can't just sit home and complain. We can't just be on social media and complain and not vote.
Right.
Right. So it is deadly important that we get involved and we get engaged. And I do think in this season that we're in, people are starting to realize that, right? Something like a global pandemic that affects everybody,
Right.
Yeah. And you can't just say, oh, well, it's just politics and it doesn't affect
Yeah.
me. I don't like politics.
See
right?
ya.
No,
Right.
Donald Trump is president because of our politics. He's bungled this pandemic, right?
Right.
And we all played a role in it, and we can do something about it. We can
Yes.
register to vote, and we can turn out to vote and vote for change and ensure that he's out of there so we can get rid of this virus.
Right.
And I also say this, I don't just want to poo-poo on young people, because I also do think that a lot of times young folks feel like they don't have anybody to vote for.
100%.
They don't have people who are representing them and their voice, so they just stay home.
Right.
So we have to ensure that, instead of just waiting for Superman, because Superman is not coming to save us, we have to tap ourselves on the shoulder, and we have to step forward, and we have to run so that we can give our fellow millennials an option and
Someone
somebody
to
to
vote
vote
for.
for.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And feeling left out, I think that is something that a lot of people that we know is something that is very prevalent, because even people on, I guess, the quote unquote left side, like a lot of people had issues with Hillary Clinton, like feeling like she was disconnected from from the youth, and that's why people turned out for Bernie, but then they don't show up to vote.
But then they don't vote for
which
him.
Is weird. Yeah.
Right.
It's absolutely weird. But, and we always push, going out to vote, because if you don't, then, you like you said, you can't make impactful change.
Right.
Yeah. So in your mind, what do you think are the most important issues facing our congressional district, and how would you like to combat those?
Yeah, I mean, and just from the Oklahoma standpoint, education is like the number one thing, right?
Right.
We are
Amen.
49th in the nation in education funding.
Yep.
And then we're losing our teachers, our best teachers, because we're not paying them well. We're like 47th or 48th in teacher pay. And we know that teachers are the number one school-based variable to students' educational outcomes. Right? So you cannot become a top 10 state, like our governor says, without paying your teachers, right, what they're worth.
Right.
And so part of why I'm running for Congress is that I want to go over the heads of our state government, right, that is engaged in this grave dereliction of duty and leadership, right, to, one, get more resources, but also to compel them to do their constitutional duty of educating our population.
Right.
So education is number one. Education is also connected to criminal justice in a way that people don't see, right?
Yes.
If you're, quote unquote, defunding your education system,
Yes.
and you lead the nation in incarceration of men and women, right? There's this pipeline.
Like, you see the correlation.
Yeah.
Well, you would hope people would see the correlation,
You would
right?
hope, right?
You would hope, yes.
You would hope. And so, like, if you don't educate the kids in your community, then you build prisons to put them there once they become adults.
Exactly.
Right. And then you get private prisons, which to me, that concept alone is just so wrong and immoral, but people don't see that. And and whenever we, magically have funding for that, but the second teachers want a decent wage, like then like all hell breaks loose. It's like, oh, they're asking for too much, but it's like they're already using their own money to fund their classrooms and stuff like that. And I'm sure you as a teacher experienced that.
Yes, no, you did. When you're teaching in underserved communities and in school districts that are grossly underfunded, as a teacher, you're not just a teacher, right? You are a counselor, you are a banker, right?
Yeah.
You are having to do a whole lot more because our elected leaders have neglected, right, their duty. And so it's just incredibly important. Also, you can't really focus on kids and ignore their parents and the communities they're coming from. And so I think, education is important, criminal justice is important, but so is healthcare and economic security. Right? And so if parents if they can't make a living wage, if they have to have 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table, then that's time that's taken away from their kids.
Right.
They're not able to read to their kids. They're not able to even take their kids to school and pick up their kids from school.
Right.
All right. And so in the wealthiest nation on earth, you should be able to work one job and live.
Right. Yeah, and no matter what job it is, absolutely. And that kind of comes back to what Congressman Hearn is doing. He's not paying his employees a living wage, so it's kind of feeding back into that system.
Exactly.
And then they're going to say, oh, well, they rely too much on the government. Well, it's like if you just gave them a fair shot, that might not be as necessary.
If you paid them right, then they won't be dependent on you.
Right. And then at the same time that he's saying that they're just relying on the government and for government handouts, when the Paycheck Protection Program comes out, right, he's first in line to get government assistance.
Yep.
Right.
So it's socialism when regular everyday people get government assistance, but it's okay
But it's fine for him to do it.
millionaires and billionaires to get government assistance.
Right. Yeah, it's
Who
socialism
in theory
for the rich.
don't need that.
Right.
Well, right, and it's also kind of like the myth of trickle down economics. Like of course, like ideally, you would want your CEOs to pay their workers more, but then whenever they just keep it for themselves, like it's just that cycle, and it's endless.
Yeah, no, it's just not leadership, right? Leadership is about serving others, right?
Right.
We elect you, we put you on that platform and give you all those perks because there's this agreement and understanding that in times of crises, you're going to be looking out for us, right? You're not just going to go and hoard everything for yourself and leave us out to dry.
Right.
All right. And he's failed that test of leadership.
Yeah, and sorry to keep on bouncing off, but that's also kind of how I feel about the mask issue. Like I just can't believe how so many people think it is literally that inconvenient to wear a mask, and how it's, like Bill Gates is trying to microchip everybody and we're getting 5G signals, and it's just like, it's all about caring for your neighbors. Like you've been saying this whole entire time.
Yeah. It's amazing that, all of a sudden people want to quote the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, right?
Right.
Just for the right to not wear a mask, right? For the right to harm their fellow citizens.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's to me, it's always been crazy how here in America we're more about individualism than collectivism, right? You see these other countries, Europe, New Zealand, Australia, they're all about their neighbor. But then the one time America, who, you would be like, oh yeah, America, needs to be about their neighbor. They're like, no, it's all about me now. Like, heck to all you, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you're gonna show up to the state capitol building in Michigan with guns over a mask. To us, it's so ridiculous.
So for our listeners and viewers outside of our district, what issues do we as a nation commonly face?
Yeah, I mean, I think
we kind of touched on a few,
but number one issue is our democracy, right? And protecting our democracy and ensuring that we still have a democracy. When this is all said and done, I think the election of Donald Trump has shown us how fragile our democracy can be, right? And how democracy is not a spectator sport, right? You have to participate, and we need an informed populace, right? And we need an independent media and free media, right? And we hear the president muddying the waters, and this whole fake news, rhetoric is to muddy the waters so that you can no longer trust, right, these independent sources. And so when he is corrupt and he does these things, he can just say, oh, these folks reporting on that, it's fake news. Don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your lying eyes. Believe me, And so I do think that is so important. And so for all of us as leaders, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, right, Green Party, we have to be committed to protecting our democracy, all right? Because that is what we're going to be able to leave for the next generation, right? I talk about, we just had Independence Day. I'm talking about the Declaration of Independence and those words that are written in there, right? That we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and so on and forth. Even when those words were written, they weren't true in reality, right? But I'm glad they were written, right? Because they give every generation a chance to make good on those promises, right? And to give it our best shot to try to perfect our union, right? So we need a democracy and a free press and all these different institutions, our democracy, to enable us to continue this project of change, right? And if we lose that, then we stop being quote unquote exceptional. We become just like any other authoritarian country, right? Ruled by strong men, and that's not what we want in America.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then of course we've been seeing a lot of really tragic events, especially in recent months. Like 2020 has just been like a downhill roller coaster, it seems like. And then the past few years as well, we've seen COVID-19, we've seen Russian interference in our elections, we've seen we've seen healthcare getting removed for people. We've seen even more racial inequities. So out of all of these tragedies that we're experiencing, do you think something positive is going to come out of that?
Yeah, I'll start off with myself. Being at home during this time, having a baby in the midst of all this, craziness. One, you come to realize how much you don't control, right? How much is out of your control. Which then the next thing is, what can you control, right? Which is you and the people connected to you, and then the ways in which you decide to engage with others and in our society. And I think this time the blessing in disguise for the stay-at-home orders that we've had, and we've all been at home, is it's given us all a chance to just reflect. Right? Reflect on our own lives. There are a lot of friends that I have that have in this season decided, you know what, I don't like my job. And, I've been meaning to quit for a long time and go follow my dreams, but I've just been scared to do it. And this season has caused me to reflect and build up the courage to do that. Right. And even, friends that I have, white women that I went to college with who are like, you know what, I didn't really get involved in politics. I didn't want to get involved, but sitting at home watching George Floyd's murder right, watching these news reports, watching people protesting, it's motivated me to, one, want to learn more, and two, to want to act. And I realize now that, my silence has contributed to the kind of country we're living in, right? And I have to speak up, right? And I can't just be a bystander. So I think the silver lining in all this is that we've become more reflective, right? And that is good, right? And that bodes well for a democracy because we'll have people who are engaged, people who are thinking, all right, people who are seeking to learn more and read and really engage with their elected leaders. I want to know who I'm voting for, what they stand for. I want to know what their values are.
Right.
Do they have great character? Can I trust them? All right. And they're going to ask the right questions. So I'm excited about that. We are definitely in the moment right now. And my hope is that it won't just be a moment. It will be a movement, right? And it will go past this summer and into November and even beyond November.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know this isn't on the list, but kind of a follow-up to that. Do you think out of all this, we will see a increase in voter turnout across the nation?
Well, the jury's still out on that. I say that because I think people are definitely motivated to vote, but we have a president and a Republican Party that is hell-bent on suppressing the vote, right? The president is using rhetoric against mailing voting, right? And he's saying it's, fraudulent when he actually votes by mail, right?
Right.
And so I do think that people are motivated to vote, but the president's rhetoric and secretaries of state in our states around the country controlled by Republicans, right, who are not enacting policies to make it easier for people to vote from home, right? And so we might face a reality where the vote is suppressed because people are protecting their health.
Right.
And our policies aren't modern enough to allow them to vote from home and still be healthy.
They have to choose, and it's unfortunate that they have to choose.
Yeah.
You choose to vote or you choose to maybe not get sick.
Exactly.
And for a lot of, people, that is scary.
It is.
Yeah, and then reflecting on that too, even without the pandemic, because we saw in 2018, Stacey Abrams, by all accounts, should have won that election in Georgia against Brian Kemp, but they still have those racist policies of years and years and years ago that weren't right in the first place, but especially not now, and they're still doing what they can to hold on to that.
Exactly.
And that's and at that point, you're just supporting racism, essentially.
No, I mean, the Republicans know that when the turnout is high, Democrats do well, and so they want to suppress the turnout. And then they've been passing these, voter ID laws, not to protect against fraud, but because they know that black and brown people are the ones who are least likely to have a government-issued ID, right? And so they want to keep those folks from voting. And so we have to, which is why I talk about democracy and protecting democracy being a huge issue for the whole country. And we need our elected officials, once we get into power, to be looking at, how do we protect our democracy? How do we have, automatic voter registration, right? Or even making election day a national holiday so that
everybody gets the chance.
Can vote. You don't have to choose between going to work to put food on the table or participating in your democracy, right? So we have to enact policy to protect our democracy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that.
No doubt.
So for our final question to close, you have a unique position to comment on the American dream as a first-generation American. What do you think sets the United States apart from the rest of the world, and do you believe that dream is still alive?
Yeah, it's a great question. Part of why I'm running for Congress is because of my story and background and upbringing. My parents came here. Right, they made the 5,000-mile trek across the Atlantic Ocean to come here. They left family and friends and familial settings, right, to come to this strange land because they believed this country was great. They believed that in America, their dreams could come true, that nothing could be impossible for them, right? And I do think that notion is what sets America apart from other countries, right?
Sure.
People want to come here because they believe their dreams can really come true in America. And part of my journey is my mom wasn't able to accomplish her dream. She got sick at the age of 39. She suffered a stroke. And she was a few credits away from getting her degree in clinical technology, right? But wasn't able to do that. My dad became incarcerated after years of working menial jobs and being a taxi driver and not really being able to fulfill that dream. he fell into the wrong crowd. So they weren't able to achieve their dream. But here I am, their son,
Yes.
who's been able to have opportunities largely because of their early sacrifices, right? And been able to go to college, first one in my family to graduate from college, go to the oldest law school in the country, right? Walk the same fields that Thomas Jefferson and John Marshall walked, right? And here I am running for Congress. So clearly, like, there's something about America, and I think, my story is probably only possible in America, right? But at the same time, I realized that alongside my journey, I've seen other people just like me, just as smart as me, right? Just as competent as me, not have the same opportunities.
Sure.
All right. And so the question is the American dream real? Is the American dream alive? Right. Only if we work to make it so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm stepping forward to work hard to build an America that is as good as its promise.
Right.
An America where all kids can have the same opportunity to achieve their full potential, right? And to achieve their dream. And so I'm sharing my story. And when Donald Trump says, "Make America great again," right? And his prescription is, let's build walls, and that's what makes America great. Or let's take healthcare away from, working people, and that's what makes America great. Or let's cut food stamps. That's what makes America great, right? That is not what makes America great, right?
No.
America is about opportunity and expanding opportunity to more and more people. And it's not a handout, it's a hand up. Right. It's not equality of outcome, it's equality of opportunity.
Right.
All right. And so that's what we have to fight for, and realize and get everybody to realize that we all win if we have these kinds of policies, right? It's not just for Black and brown people. It's not just for the people that you don't know, right? This helps you and your children as well, no matter who you are.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. And it's just it's almost, it's interesting how those programs and those things that gives everybody a chance is kind of advertised as being counter to the American dream. It's like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but if you have no bootstraps to pull yourself up by, how can you do that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If I took your bootstraps away.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I took your...
And now I'm telling you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps while you have it in your hands.
Right.
Makes no sense.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Kojo, we really appreciate it. We are looking forward to voting for you again in November, of course. And is there anything else that you would like to add?
Thank you guys for having me,
of course.
Lydia, Stephen. I appreciate it. Appreciate the support. I don't take it for granted at all. If you want to find out more about me, my story, our campaign, what we stand for, go to kojoforcongress.com, KOJOFOR Congress.com. You can learn more. You can sign up to volunteer, sign up for a yard sign. Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure your family and friends and neighbors are registered to vote. And then turn out to vote in November. Vote for change. And let's build an America as good as its promise.
Absolutely. Well, Kojo, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. And again, best of luck to you in November.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Wow, Team Stevia. And there you
Here
have it.
we are.
Yeah, here we are. So that was so incredible. And we would like to thank Kojo Asamoa-Caesar for being on the show. He signed a newspaper for us.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it was so cool. He took a picture with us.
Yeah.
He was so sweet.
Yeah, he was the nicest. We for sure hope he wins in November, not just because he's nice, but also because he is extremely smart. But above all else, he is so passionate.
That's
about
what I was going to
Tulsa.
say.
Hey, up top.
Yes, I
There
was
we
going to be
go.
like, he's so passionate. And he cares for the neighbor. He cares for his neighbors and for the people. And he really could care less about political party. He just wants everybody to have a chance.
Right.
And I feel like that's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of like I mentioned earlier, it's like whenever you don't have any boots to pull up by your bootstraps,
Exactly.
you can't really do that. And the African proverb that he mentioned, where if you want to go fast, you go by yourself, but if you want to go far, you go together.
Together.
And that's just so
That
true.
really, it stuck with me.
It
That
really
was
did.
really good.
Yeah.
Wow.
The whole thing was amazing. And we, again, just cannot thank him enough for agreeing to be on the show. We hope that you all enjoyed it as much as we did. But yeah, I think that's about it.
That's about it.
We're just both so starstruck right now.
It was awesome.
It was. So as always, you can find us on any podcast app that you listen to. We're all over the internet. You can also, of course, find us on YouTube, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button and the like button and ring the bell notification. Whatever you do with the bell, whatever they say.
Steven, they're like, every time you
have to come up with a new thing. It's a new action. You have to do it. Yeah.
We'd also like to thank our Discord. What do we do? What are we thinking?
Gosh, yeah.
We'd like to thank, what do we call them?
All right,
our producers.
Yeah.
We'd also like to thank our producers for supporting us. You can support us for as little as 99 cents a month. And you can find all that information on our link tree.
Absolutely, which you can find in our bios. And we also have merchandise, and we ship nationwide as well. So if you live in Alexandria, Virginia, which is where Kojo, Asamoa-Caesar is from, we will gladly ship to you. And you can again find that on our link tree, and the link is in our bio. So we will see
also
you
join our Discord.
Also join our Discord.
I think we forgot that one.
We did, yes.
But we're doing this today without any monitors in front of us. So
and after a huge interview.
And after a big interview, so this is what you get from us, really.
Right.
What do you expect, though?
Right.
I mean, they expect this, really.
Well, right, because I feel like everybody came for the middle part, which is the best part.
Yeah.
So of course,
they're probably not even still here.
I mean, if they are, hello.
But we appreciate you if you are.
Absolutely. So we will catch you.
We should start doing it. I'm sorry, you keep trying to do this, but I'm still talking.
Oh, go ahead.
We should start doing like a secret code. Like, hey, if you're listening and you hear the code Watermelon,
we've done that before.
Then you get a sticker.
Yeah, we've done that before.
Have we done that before?
We have. Yeah. Yeah, the other one was because you shouted it out last time that we did it. It was some silly word, then like Joe and Caleb.
Wait, really?
You did. I promise. I hate
it when I already have ideas that I already had ideas about.
It's a good idea. So
never mind.
Yeah, it's a good idea. All right. Well, we will see you all in episode 87 of the Stevia Show. But for now, this is Steven.
This is Lydia.
And we will see you all later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.